Hey there my fellow designers and creatives, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to another play tutorial on the channel. In this video, we're going to go ahead and learn to create this number keyboard interaction. It's super cool and fun. So let me quickly show you how it is. And also I'll share a QR code that you can scan, or you can check out the link in the description, which will have a link to the prototype that you can actually interact right on your phone if you have an iOS device. So basically it's pretty simple and straightforward. It's just a number keypad, and as you can see, as I tap numbers, it gets updated as it ideally should. I can delete some, I can add some, and all of this is like super dynamic, super interactive. And as you can even see, the comma also jumps places depending on the number. So obviously this is 10,000, this is 1,000, and if I add another one, this becomes 100,000, right? So basically it works dynamically, it works perfectly. And even if I delete all the numbers, then we get the default state, we get the placeholder, the button is inactive. The moment I enter a value, it becomes an active state, right? So we're going to learn how to create this. It's not really that complicated. It does require some new knowledge of how these things are built in Play. So I'm going to explain all of that in depth in the easiest and the simplest way possible. All right, so one last thing before we get started. This is the QR code that you can scan to actually view it on your phone, or you can go to the link in the description and test it out yourself. All right, so without any further ado, let's get started. All right, so as you can see here, I've just set up the basic structure. I've created a cell which essentially has just text layer over here, and there's also a variant with a back arrow. So if I can quickly show you this, I have two versions, one with the back arrow and not. I'm not going to show you how to set this up. This is pretty standard stuff. And I've created all the numbers over here, and we also have the version with the back arrow, right? So essentially this is what we have. I've also gone ahead and created a simple bounce effect, and this is a prefab which you can get over here, and this essentially just bounces the number when you tap on it, right? And there's also haptic feedback that I've added. Very simple and standard stuff. This is not really that important. Okay, now before we actually go ahead and set up the animation and update the numbers and all of that, let's try to understand the logic and set up the logic in the backend. And then we can then bring in that logic and update the UI elements. So we basically set the logic in the backend and then apply that to the front end elements, right? So how do you go ahead and set up the logic in the backend if it's not going to be displayed over here? Well, we're going to be using a function called as sprint, which basically just prints information. It prints it on the screen in the form of a small dialog box, and I'm going to show you that in a second, but that's what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and start animating, just maybe one or two numbers, and then, we can go ahead and do the rest. All right, so I'm going to come over here and tap on the first one over here. Make sure you just select the cell. So I'm just going to close all of the things that we don't need. So we're going to select the first cell. All right. Now, because this is an instance of the master component, it's bringing in those properties, but this is not relevant to us. We're going to create a brand new one, and I'm going to go ahead and type in tap. Now, what happened when this taps? What we essentially want to do is to store that number somewhere. So when I enter 1, it needs to store that information somewhere, right? And to store that information somewhere, we need to go ahead and create a variable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here to the global section. You can add it anywhere over here, but I'm going to add it in the global. And I'm going to create a variable. Now, you might think we're going to use the number variable, but I actually want to use the string variable. Now, I'm going to explain why I'm not going to use the number variable right now. It's very hard to explain that, and you will not understand if I explain why we're not using a number variable. You'll understand a little bit later, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and choose a string variable. All right. So a string is essentially a blank piece of text which can store characters or basically alphabets or numerical value. It's not a number. So if the string contains 1, 2, 3, that doesn't mean it's 123. It's just 3 numbers put across together, right? It's not a number. It's just a piece of text, right? I'm going to go ahead and call this variable as a raw variable. Of course, you can name variables to whatever you want, but I'm going to go ahead and call this raw variable. Sorry, or raw number actually. Okay, I'm calling it raw number and not just number because it might confuse when I say number. So I'm just going to type in raw number. Now, by default, we're going to keep it like this. The type is string, which is what we want, and the value is nil. We don't want any value because the number should basically not exist when I'm typing, right? Or there should be nothing when I start typing. All right. And we're just going to leave that as it is. And I'm just going to click outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on this and I'm going to say set a variable. All right. And I'm going to choose the variable, which is the raw number. And now I'm going to tell it to add a number. So because we're using a string, everything that we do has to be in quotes, right? Because if I just type 1, it's going to add it as a value. So for example, if I just type 1, this is a number. You can't have a numerical number inside a string variable because a string variable is just piece of text and characters, right? So everything that we put inside a string variable needs to be in quotes because that's basically printing that exact thing. So I'm going to come here and just type in 1. Okay. Now I'm going to bring up my phone and now when I tap on 1, you can see that there's that bounce animation that's happening, but nothing is really happening on the screen. But the variable is being updated. Now, how do we check that? So here, what I will do is every time I tap, right, I'm going to bring in this print function and I can basically print, right? So this is basically, just like a placeholder, but this is what we are going to see. So I can call this, let's say just number, all right? And here I can type in the variable where I basically want to print the raw number value, all right? So now I'm going to bring up my phone again. So now when I tap, you can see here that the number is basically this part and then it's printing the number 1. But the problem is when I tap on it again, you can see the bounce effect is working, but I'm not able to add multiple digits. So what I can do is I can come over here and what we need to do and what's actually happening here is that this raw number is just being updated to 1. It's just replacing. What we want to do is we want to take that raw number and add 1 beside it. So how do we do this? What we can do is we can say, take that raw number, whatever that is, and just print 1 beside that. So if the raw number is, let's say 3, it's going to be 3 plus the 1, which is not 4. Then it'll be 31, but that doesn't mean it's numerical value 31. It's just 3, 1, 2 numbers beside each other. So let's try that again. So now if I type in 1, you can see it says 1. Now if I type in 1, you can see it goes 1 again. And now I can type in as many times as I want, right? So this is exactly what we need. Now, what I can quickly do is I can just copy this, all right? Copy this and paste this over here. And here we will say raw number plus 2, all right? And I'm going to delete this print, all right? We don't need that print. We just need 1 print, all right? And I'm going to choose number 3 and close this up and paste the same thing. And here it's going to be 3. We're going to try this with just a few characters, right? And I don't want print here as well. Also, what I want to do is when I tap on 3, we are not going to see the print because the print is triggered only on 1. Right? So for example, if I bring up my phone again and if I type in 1, when I type in 2, it's not printing because that print is happening only on 1. So what we can quickly do is I'm going to take this print, I'm going to cut that and I'm going to click on the main screen over here. And what I will do is I will add an event. And an event is basically some sort of a signal that is sent out, right? And what is that signal? That signal is basically a variable that is being changed. So every time a variable is changed, I want you to print that number. So here I'm going to say type variable. When this variable changes, and that changes every time we tap on a number here, I want you to go ahead and just paste that. So I can click on this and paste that. So then every time it pastes that number. So now let me bring out my phone again. So now let's see. So 1, 2, 3, there we go, right? So now the number is being printed, right? So this is exactly what we need. All right. Now, the next thing what we want to do is we want to ensure that tapping on this button removes the characters or basically the digits so that we get a real number. So how is this going to work? Now, let's take an example and so that I can explain this visually. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a text layer over here. And I'm going to just go ahead and make this white color so we can see what's happening. All right. So let's say we have a random number that looks like this. Okay. Now, when I tap on the back arrow, all right, the 9 is going to disappear. Now, how do we make the 9 disappear? Now, one might think that we're actually just removing one of the digits or one of the characters from this string. So just the way we added +1, we are minusing 1. So that's going to remove this. And we can use -1 to remove this. But that doesn't really work. What we need to do is, because this is a string, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this string, all right? I'm going to take a screenshot, if that's the way I want to put it. Take a screenshot of that, all right? Oop, why is it not duplicated? Okay. Take a screenshot of this, all right? But only take a screenshot of all the digits except the last digit, all right? And then I'm going to say, hey, whatever this value is, all right, take that, all right, and update the string value of this to be this. So I take a screenshot, and then now instead of removing this number 9, I'm just replacing this to be this. So it's basically doing a copy and it's doing a paste. That's what we need to tell the system to do rather than to remove just this 9. We just take this, print everything before that, and then drop that over here. So how do we actually do this? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this and I'm going to add a condition. So go to the interaction tab, all right? And I'm going to say on tab, all right? I want you to set the variable, all right? So we want to take the variable. So whatever it is, it doesn't matter what that value is. It could be any number that I showed you. Take all the characters except the last one, copy that, and then replace that raw number with this. So how do we do that? We need to use a function called as a SubString. So if you see over here, it says the selected range of characters in a given string, all right? I'm going to type in SubString over here. And now we need to fill up these things. So the first thing is to obviously identify the string. Which string are we taking a screenshot from? So I can click on that and just type in hashtag and then raw number, and that's going to select the number. And to keep things simple, make sure that you don't really have any spaces between your variables over here. All right. So I'm going to try this again. So I'm going to say substring and here hashtag and raw number. All right. Now what we need to do is select that range. All right. So in code, we use the concept of index. So basically index is the position. So it doesn't start with first position. It actually starts with 0 position. All right. So I'm going to type in 0 because we wanted to copy from the first number. All right. So if you see over here, we have let's say 7 digits. I want to copy the first 6 digits, and the first digit is actually the index 0. Now, the question is, we may not know how long this number is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, why don't you calculate how many characters that string has? So I'm going to say the end index. I'm going to start off by calculating the number of characters it has. So the way to do that is using a function called as string count. And the string count returns the number of characters in a string. So I'm going to type in that. And here I'm going to say raw number. So what we're doing is we are first calculating the number of characters in that. All right. So string count of raw number. So now here we have calculated the number of characters. All right. It could be anything. It could be 3, it could be 5, it could be 100. And then to this, because this string count is a numerical value, I can actually subtract 1 from it. So let's say the string count is 7. So then I can go ahead and say -1 and close this, all right? So to quickly recap, what's happening over here? We're basically taking a screenshot of all the characters except the last one. So I've started first by identifying which string, so which is the variable. And then I'm going to say copy all the characters from the first digit to the last digit -1, all right? So if the string is 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to copy 1, 2, 3. So 0 is basically copying the first digit, which is 1. And then the string count is calculating 4. And then I'm going to subtract 1. So essentially we have raw number from the first character to the third character if we have 4 digits. All right. Now let's see if this works. And because we are printing this, we have this basically is the function that is taking a screenshot or capturing all those characters minus 1, and then this set variable is updating that raw number of whatever it is to that screenshot with all the characters without just one character. Hope that makes sense. So I'm going to show you how this is. So I'm going to open up my phone again. All right. And here, so let's say we type in 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Now, if I tap on the back, you can see it doesn't actually remove the 3. It's taking 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 and replacing it with 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, the value of the raw number, or basically the variable over here, is 1, 2, 1, 2. When I type on this back again, it becomes 1, 2, 1. Here again, back again, and back again. So now, if I type in this again, it works perfectly. And I can tap on this back arrow as many times as I want. All right. As you can see, I'm tapping as many times, and I can type again, and then it prints this. So now we've got this actually working. Now, if you're building something simple, all right, this should solve all your problems. So what does that mean? So let's take an example. So I'm going to bring in this text layer over here, and I'm just going to drop that over here. Let me just change the color of this to be black. And I'm going to go ahead and put this somewhere in the center of the screen. All right. So I'm just going to put it over here. Oops. And I'm just going to go ahead and increase the font size. So let's say we would probably like 30, right? Just an example. All right. Now, obviously, I want to attach this number to this variable. So whatever is the number over here or the value over here, we want that to be printed over here. So what I can do, the way to do that is to use a concept called as set text. So here, all right, on the event that we did. So if I go here to the event, all right, every time the variable changes, I sort of want to take that piece of text, all right? So that piece of text, which is text1, all right, just give it the raw number. So I can come over here and apply this. So whatever is the raw number is going to be printed here on the text1 because we say set text. And this happens every time the raw number changes. So let's see what we do. So if I close this up and I'm going to bring in my phone, all right? So by default, it's starting like this, which is obviously not something that we want. So I'm going to come over here and I can actually just remove all the characters. All right. So we still have that text layer, but there's nothing there. All right. And I can bring out my phone again. And now if I type in 1, you can see it prints over here and it updates this number. And there we go. So we basically have something that's working perfectly, and I can close this up. Now, if this is all you want, the tutorial ends over here. But in our case, what we want to do is we want to animate each digit individually. And also, because we want to add a comma after numbers, we can't insert a comma over here. So because we want to be able to have commas and we want to individually animate these digits, what we need is multiple text layers. So one digit, one text layer for each digit, because we want to animate those step by step. So now let's go ahead and animate those digits one by one. All right. So I've gone ahead and just pasted this. This is where our numbers are going to be. And one of the constraints here is that you actually have to decide upfront how many digits you want to allow, because we need to animate this for each digit. So in this case, I've chosen 6 because if I chose more than 6, it'll be a problem because we have to add the comma as well. So commas take up more space. And so we want to make sure that we don't run out of space, and you can view this on any device, right? So as you can see over here, it's simple, a stack that I've created, and it has 6 digits, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have the commas here as well. I'm going to sort of explain all of those as we progress. We're just going to do this without the commas first. I also have D0, which is this placeholder. We're going to do that a little bit later. So this is basically what the user would see, and then that would change. All right. And then I also have this currency. This is very easy. I'm going to show this later as well. So for now, let's just start with this. Now, if you want to think about how the animation would work, it's pretty simple. So it would probably start like this. And then when I type in the first one, this one appears, and then the second one appears, the third one appears, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, right? So this is how the animation would happen, right? Now, the way I want this animation to happen is I want it to scale and sort of bounce. So which means we want the scale to be 0. Now I can actually go ahead and set the scale of all of these items, let's say to be 0. All right. So if I go ahead and set the scale to 0, everything has disappeared. But the problem is if I turn on the first one, I would have to set it to 100, but that would be at the very end. And even if we set it to scale 0, the element still exists over there. So what we essentially need to do is I'm going to Control Z that. Instead of setting all of this to 100, all right, I'm going to actually just hide them because we want to make these pop up one at a time. So they're actually just like hidden. It's not opacity 0. It's not scale 100. We want to hide this. Now, not just that, when I reveal it, I want it to scale from 0 to 100. So it's not just going to appear, it's also going to sort of jump. It's going to appear and it's going to jump immediately, right? So I actually wanted to scale down from a value of 60%, not 0%. So I'm going to select all of these items as well, which is D2, D3, D4, D5, D6, and also set the scale of that to be, 60%, right? So if I turn this on, it starts at 60, doesn't start at 0. It's a natural, it's just, for me, that just looks much more better than it animating from 0, all right? So this is how it's going to be. So let's go ahead and do this. Now again, I'm going to go ahead and just do this for the first one. Let's just say we type in 11111 and let's see how that goes. So I'm going to come to the interaction tab and now here. Now, when I tap on this, what we need to do is we want to update the raw number. Now, I can actually add the action to update that number over here. But the problem is that let's say I add that function to update the number when I tap on 1. When I tap on 2, it needs to run those same conditions, but those conditions are attached only when I tap on 1. And I have to then duplicate all of this for each of the items, for each of the numbers, and that can make this very complicated. So instead of revealing those numbers on tap, we already have a trigger which is updating the variable. So if I come here to the main one, all right, if I just click over here, we have this event which is updating the number. So when we tap on this, the number is updating. Doesn't matter which number I tap on. Whatever number I tap on, the variable is updating. So why don't we do that over here itself, right? So then we can put all those conditions here instead of assigning it individually to each of these digits. So I'm going to delete the set text. This is the one that we just had to show you an example. We don't need that. And I'm going to keep the raw number printing just in case we want to see it, because this helps us understand where something is going wrong. So I'm going to go and click on plus. And here what we basically do is going to reveal that number. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and type in set property, because first thing we want to do is we want to reveal that number and then scale and animate that number. So I'm going to go ahead and say set property. All right. And here, what do we want to target? What we want to target is that first digit. All right. So I'm going to choose D1. Okay. Well, let's start from there. And I'm going to choose property and I'm going to choose hidden. All right. And the value is off. So when the variable changes, I don't want it to be off, because if you think about it, this is a little bit counterintuitive. The property hidden is off, which means it's visible, right? If I turn this on, which means it's hidden. I don't want it to hide. I want it to be unhidden. So I'm going to turn this to be off. So now the number is going to be visible. But not just that. What I also want to do is I want to scale that, because when I unhide it, it's at 60%. I want it to scale from 60% to 100%. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. And here I'm going to go ahead and choose scale. Now the order of things that you do here matters a lot. So first we want to reveal that number, which happens instantly. And then we want to animate the scale. So we wanted to scale it to 100%. That's the final position, because right now it's at 60. We wanted to scale it to 100%, and we wanted to have some nice animation. So I already have some values that I already like. So I'm going to say 0.25. All right. And I'm going to choose spring, and I'm going to choose 0.4. Right. Let's test this out. So here's my phone again. Now when I type in 1, you can see that thing very neatly animates. Now when I tap again, nothing is happening, and we have to set up a lot more logics for that. but I will explain. So as you can see here, the number is being updated, but this you see animated, but that's about it. The first thing that we want to do is we want to actually update this number to actually be the first digit. Now the question here is, we don't know what the user is going to tap on. Is the user going to tap on 6 or 8 or 3? We don't really know. So what we need to do is we need to follow that same screenshot approach where we capture the first digit that was entered by the user. So we already have this variable. The raw number is being updated with this number. All we need to do is capture the first one. Now, how do we capture? We use the concept of SubString, and that's all we have to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, okay? And I'm going to say set text because we want to update the text, all right? And I'm going to go ahead and choose what is the element that I want to update. So obviously we want to update the first digit, all right? What should be the text of that? This is where we add the substring. So I'm going to type in substring of what? We have the raw variable and we want to capture the first digit. So to capture the first digit or take a screenshot of the first digit, I'm going to say start off with the first index and the end index to be 1. So between 0 and 1, it's actually 0, but because we need to give 2 values here to capture that string, we need to set it like this, right? So now this substring is going to capture the first digit, which means the user can tap anything on their keyboard. And when they tap anything on the keyboard, the raw number is going to be updated and we are going to capture the first digit of that raw number and update this digit D1 to that number. So let's see how that works. So now if I type in 2, you can see it updated the number 2 and it played that. Now if I type in 3, it doesn't really do anything because the animation has ended. Now we're going to set up a lot more logics for that. Now when I type in 3, we need to add the number 3. If I type in 4, we need to add the number 4 here. But as you can see, this one is working. So if I try this again, let me just disable and enable, pick up my phone again. Now this time if I type in 1, you can see it does the number 1. Let me try this again. And if I do 3, it works for 3. Now it should work for all of this as well, but we actually haven't set up the logic for all of this yet. I just want to do it for the first 3 characters and then we just copy paste everything for all the other digits and we should be good to go, right? Perfect. Now, here's the thing. If I type in, let's say any random number over here, all right? We have 3, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3. This number could be in any order. I could have typed in any number. So how do we update each of those digits to match this? Because you're able to match the first number. What if the second number, because I don't know what the user is going to tap on the second number and we need to update the second number. Now the problem is that these rules that we defined, which is for the first digit, we can just copy this and update the value. So for digit 2, digit 3, digit 4. But the thing is that I want digit 1 to be updated if there is only one digit or one character in that string. I want you to update the second number if there are 2 characters. I want you to update the third digit if there are 3 characters. So that is the condition that we need to set up. So how do we set up that condition? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, here, when the raw number changes, I'm going to apply a condition. And this condition states, all right, if the number of characters, all right, so if I say the string count, if the number of characters of this string, which is essentially the raw variable, all right, is equal to 1. If there is one digit or one character, then I want you to update the first digit only. All right. Now, what if there are 2 characters now? Now, if there are 2 characters, I want you to run condition number 2. So I'm just going to hide this. All right. So this is going to be condition number 2. If when the variable changes and I identify that there are 2 characters, then I want you to update digit number 2. So digit number 2, just update that everywhere, and digit number 2, update that over here. And also we want to print the second digit to have a screenshot of the second character in that string, right? So here I'm going to say 1 and 2. Now we are going to capture the second character, which is essentially index number 1, because this is index. and index starts with 0, 1, 2. So the first digit is index 0, second digit is index 1. So I'm going to choose between 1 and 2, and it's going to choose 1. So now let's see if this works. So now if I type in, let's say 3, it does this. Now I can type any number. I can type in 3 or 2 or 1. If I do 1, you can see it went ahead, captured that second value and updated that over here. All right. Now all we got to do is go ahead and duplicate this couple of times. So we have, this would be 3, this would be 4, this would be 5, this would be 6. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and just quickly update all of this, and I'll see you back in a second. All right. So as you can see, I've gone ahead and duplicated it. And for the sixth one, which is if the number of digits is 6, then I want you to unhide the digit 6, scale digit 6 to 100, and also update the sixth digit, digit 6, to the sixth digit of the variable, right? So now if we do a quick test, so I can type in 1, 2, 0, 3, 2, 1. So there seems to be some sort of an issue with the third digit. So let me quickly check that. Oh yeah, we got to update this to digit number 3. So now let's see if this works. So 2, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Perfect. All right. So now this is working as expected. And here the number is still being entered. That's going to create problems for us, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But for now, this is working perfectly for us. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we also want to remove these digits. So if I tap on this number, what's happening here is that it actually removed this number from here. So as you can see here, I'm able to remove the number, but that should actually remove this. Now the thing is that because this number is so long, now even if I start removing all the other digits, now you can see the variable is nothing, but this number still exists. So what should we actually do here? The first thing that we want to do is to prevent it from actually typing multiple numbers. And as you can see here, there's also some sort of a bug, right? As you can see, it just updated the numbers. So the first thing we want to do is prevent it from typing more than 6 digits. Once there are 6 digits, we don't want it to update the variable anymore. So how do we do that? So let's go back to the place where this variable is being edited, right? So we come over here to number 1, all right? Here it's updating this number. What we actually wanted to do is say, we wanted to update the number only if there are less than 6 characters. So I'm going to add a condition over here which says, all right, and I'm going to apply this to this. I'm going to say, if the string count, all right, of the raw number, if the number of characters is lesser than 6, then add that digit, or else don't. So I'm going to say less than 6, because if it is equal to 6, then you shouldn't, because 6 is the maximum, right? And so now we can just test it with number 1. So if I type in the number 1, you can see that it stops after 6 characters, right? As you can see, like I'm tapping, but it's not updating it. Now if I add in 2, it actually does it because we didn't apply this condition for 2 and 3. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly copy this, all right, and paste it for 2 and 3. So I'm going to come over here and paste it, and I can just add this over here and delete this one, and do it for number 3 as well. Paste that and take this, put this over here, and we can delete it. So now let's see if this works. So now if I type in 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, it works, right? And as you can see, I'm tapping, but nothing else is happening, and our function is working. Now, when I remove this, it removes the number. That's basically what we're doing. It's perfect. But we needed to remove this as well. So how do we do this? So what we need to understand is a couple of things. Now those digits disappear only when I tap on this. They add the digits when I tap on this, but when I tap on this, the digits should actually disappear. Now the thing is that because the variable is still being updated, we can actually add it here. It's not really a problem. But the thing is, we're already having too many logics over here. So let's do it in a place where it's a little simpler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and on this, we are removing that digit, right? So this variable that we set, this condition this set variable is basically removing that one digit from the print, right? And so when we do this, let's remove the digits on tapping this. So how do we do this? Now, let's say if I take an example, I tapped 1 and I have this. Now let's say if I tap back over here, all right, it removed the number over here in the print. So the variable is now blank, but we need to remove this, all right? So first, let's remove it. Let's add the animation to remove it, and then we can add a little bit more logic. So I'm going to tap on the plus over here, and I'm going to say set property. What we want to do is we want to take that first digit, all right, and hide it because we want to return it back to the initial state. So the initial state was that it was hidden, so we want to hide it. And not just that, we want to reset it back to 60% because that was the initial state. Because when it comes up again, I want it to bounce from 60 to 100. So I'm going to duplicate this and I'm going to say set the scale back down to 60%. I'm going to say 60%. Now here, I don't really care about the animation because hiding it is going to happen instantly. So we're not going to see the scale animation at all. So this happens really quickly. So now let's quickly test this. So if I tap on 1, you can see it works. And when I tap on back, it removes it. Perfect. But this logic doesn't make sense, right? Because if I type in this, now if I tap on back, it actually removed the wrong digit. So if I, let's say, type in 333, all right, and I remove it, you can see now it's not removing. Something's wrong. It's not working, right? And you can see it jumped. Something is wrong with this. So what we need to do is, again, the same condition where we need to count how many characters are there. So if there is, let's start off, run this again, right? So I'm going to just reset this, play this again. So if there is one digit, we remove digit 1. Now the thing is, that's not really true because let's say if I type in a large number like this, all right. Now if I when I tap on this back arrow, I wanted to remove number 2, not number 1. So what it means is if there are 6 digits, and I tap on the back arrow, I want you to remove the 6th digit, which is digit 6 or D6. So let's start off by just doing 1 and then we can duplicate it. So this condition, we want it to happen when the condition that we set here is true, right? So, So if the string count, which is basically the number of characters in the raw number variable, is equal to 6. If it is 6, and then when I tap on this back arrow, then you should just remove digit number 6, right? So now let's test this out. So I'm going to type in just a random number, all right? Okay, now when I tap on this, it should remove the last digit, all right? Now, it didn't remove the last digit, but it removed the number. Now, the reason this is happening is because of the order of instructions we have defined in plane. If you see over here, the first thing that it's doing is it's actually removing that digit. So which is why this happened first. And after it did this, it then ran the condition to check if there are 6 characters. But by the time it checked this, the 6th digit was already removed in the raw variable. So what we need to do is just reverse the order. So what we do is we first do the check, we remove the 6th digit, and then we update the variable. So now if I type in a random number, all right, now it removes the last digit because it first removed the digit and then updated the variable. So now there are going to be 5. So now all I need to do is just go ahead and duplicate this multiple times. All right, so we need 6, and then I need to update all of this and remove the respective digits. So if there are 6 characters, we remove the 6th digit. If there are 5 characters, we remove the 5th digit. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly do that. All right, so I've gone ahead and just set all the values, set all the conditions for each number. So if there is 1 character, we remove the first digit. If there are 2 characters, we remove the second digit. If there are 3 characters, we remove the third digit, right? So now let's test this, and this should work perfectly. So I can type in anything that I want, and I can remove this, and I can add as many digits as I want, add as many numbers as I want, and it works exactly the way we need. And it is so dynamic, it is so cool, and it works flawlessly because we set up a beautiful logic, right? So I can enter anything that I want, and I can tap anytime, I can stop anytime, I can add more digits anytime. It works. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and add those commas. Now we're going to understand what is actually happening here. So go ahead and just quickly reset this. Okay. So now let me just add, let's create a number over here. Now, the thing is, well, let me actually do it again. I should not go beyond. All right. So when I add the first digit, we don't want the comma. When I add the second digit, I don't want the comma. When I add the third digit, I don't want the comma. Now, when I add the fourth digit, all right, I want the comma to appear after 1. All right. So between 1 and 2, we want that comma to exist. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, which means between the first digit and the second digit, I have to have a comma. So if I come back here to the edit mode and I click on this, and let's say I see, as you can see here, I have a comma between digit 1 and digit 2. All right. So what that means is now if I come here to interactions, when the string count is 4, all right, you need to reveal the fourth digit. But not just that. Not only should you reveal the fourth digit, you also need to reveal the first comma. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just select these 2 items. I'm going to copy that by pressing Command D, and that just duplicates it. I'm going to move it all the way to the bottom. All right. And here I'm going to choose the target, which is the first comma. So I'm going to unhide the first comma, and I'm going to scale it to 100%. So I'm going to say comma 1. Now the commas that we have over here, if I just select the 3 commas, I'm going to set the scale of that to 60%, just the way we did it for all the others. All right. So now our condition should work. So now if I type in 1, 2, 3. Now when I enter the fourth digit, let's say I type in 2, 2 should come along with the first comma, and there you go. Now, when I enter another digit, we want this comma to move from here to here. Now, it's difficult to move this comma from here to here. We can do it, but we need to set up all of the conditions in a different way. With the way that we have set up, which is a little simpler to, easy to understand, I'm going to hide comma number 1 and reveal comma number 2, which is between D2 and D3. All right. So when we have 5 digits, we hide comma number 1 and we reveal comma number 2. All right. So let's go ahead and set that up. Now, one cool thing that I like to do is I like to group these interactions. So I'm going to select both of this, and I'm just going to press Command G to group, and I can rename this, and I can say reveal comma 1. All right. And then I can select these 3 items, and I can group them, and I can say reveal D4, and I can just, sort of close these. All right. Now, when there are 5 digits, all right, let me go ahead and group all of this quickly. So Command G, this is going to be reveal D5. All right. What I want is, in fact, let me just copy these values. I'm going to copy these 2, all right, and paste them over here. All right. And we want to reveal comma number 2. So I'm going to reveal comma number 2, and I'm going to reveal comma number 2, but we also want to hide comma number 1. All right. So I'm going to take this 1 and actually just group them first. And I'm going to say reveal comma 2. All right. And I'm actually going to copy this and duplicate this. And this is going to be hide comma 1. All right. So now the comma 1 that we have, we want to hide it. All right. Comma 1, we remove it and set the scale back down to 60. All right. So now let's see if this makes sense. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. All right, I type in 1. Perfect. So now when I type in 2, it's going to be 5 characters. So it's going to reveal the 5th digit. It's going to reveal the second comma, which is going to be over here. And it is going to hide the first comma. So when I type in something, you can see it now moves and it becomes perfect. Now, here is where things change. Now, when we have the 6th digit, if you're from India, we have a different system where we add the comma after 2 digits. But if you're not from India, and if you are from a European country or a US country, we actually add it after the 3rd digit, right? So in this case, because I'm from Europe, when I add this, I will remove second comma and add it over here. So I will hide comma 2 and reveal comma 3, right? So depending on where you're from, things change. Now I'm going to do this for Europe because it's simpler for me. So when I add the 6th digit, I'm going to hide comma number 2 and reveal comma number 3. So what I can do is I can just copy these 2 items and I can paste that over here. All right. And I can group these as well. So I'm going to group this. This is going to be reveal digit number 6. All right. And we're going to hide comma number 2 and reveal comma number 3. Now to hide comma number 2, I obviously have to change the target. So comma number 2, and for revealing comma number 3, I need to change that to comma number 3 and comma number 3. All right, perfect. So now let's test this out. So there we go. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. And now I'm going to add 3. You see, this is what we get. Now this is perfect. Now, if I tap on back, you can see it's working, but there is an issue. Because the number of characters were 5, it revealed comma number 2, because comma number 1 is over here, comma number 2 is over here, 1. We need to hide comma number 3 as well. All right. So here I'm going to say hide comma 1 and 3. All right. And I'm just going to select both of these items, bring them down, and just change this to comma number 3 and this also to comma number 3. All right. Now let's see if this works. So 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. And I remove the first one. Perfect. If I do the second one, we need to remove comma number 2 when we have 4 digits. So here, I'm going to go ahead and just copy this. I'm going to paste that over here actually. Okay. So this is going to be hide comma 2. All right. And so then here we just want to hide comma 2, or actually we already have that over here. So actually I'm going to delete this, copy this, delete these 2 and then just paste, right? So we reveal comma 1, hide comma number 2. Here we reveal comma number 2, hide comma 1 and 3. And here we hide comma 2 and reveal 3. So now let's see if this works. It should work. So let's see 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Looks good. There we go. There we go. Oh, looks like something went wrong. So to quickly check this, what I can do is I can actually just apply colors over here so that we can track what is happening, to be very honest. So the first one, I'm going to make it red color because first one is RGB. And the second one, I'm going to make green. So this is going to be second one. And the third one, that's going to make it blue because RGB. Now let's see if this works. All right. So I'm going to go back to the conditions over here. Where were the conditions? Yeah, there we go. I'm just going to unhide and hide. Okay. So the first one, second one, third one, 3. So the first one is red, which is good. Second one is green, which is good. Third one is blue. Now, when I remove the 6th digit, all right, we hide comma number 1 and comma number 3, and we reveal comma number 2, which is correct. And when we have 4 characters, all right, we need to hide comma number 2 and reveal comma number 1. So comma number 2 is actually this, which looks to be correct, but I don't know why it's not working. Let me quickly just reset the values over here. So comma number 2, and let's see, hopefully this should work. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, it was just an issue. Now, here, when it is 3 digits, we want to remove 1 comma. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy this. I think it's just an issue with play. So here I'm going to select all of these items, group them. This is going to be reveal digit 3. And I'm going to paste this over here. And this is going to be hide comma number 1. So comma number 1 and comma number 1. All right, let's see if this works. I'm just going to add in 3 digits. So 1, this is good, perfect, and perfect. And there we go. So as you can see, it is working as expected. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, select these 3 items, and then just update the fill to be black. All right. I don't know if it updated for all. So yeah, it updated for all. So one final check. Yeah, as you can see, it updated the color, which is fantastic. Now, one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to reveal the digit 0 and the currency as well. So let's go ahead and do that. So how do we want the first state to look like? We want the first state to be like this, where we essentially have this. All right. Now, what we need to define, and if I open this up, this is basically what we get. I can quickly go ahead to the conditions and just quickly reset them. So I can just, this is too many. Okay, just close this up, close, close, and close. Okay, so I can just, reset one of them and that will work. So now this is what we have. So now if I type in the first digit, this thing is working, but as you can see, I want to really, first of all, hide this digit, which is D0, which is basically the placeholder. And I also want to change the color of this currency to black. Now, what should be the condition? It's always better to put the condition depending on the number of digits. So which means that if the number of digits is not 0, or basically this string, if the number of characters in that string is not equal to 0, then you hide this and you set this to black. But if it is 0, then you reveal this. So how do we set this up? This should be pretty simple and straightforward. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a new condition. All right. And this condition is go all the way to the top. This is the first thing that's going to happen. I'm going to say if the string count of the raw number, all right, if that is not equal to 0, all right, does not equal to 0, which means if there is 1 or more, then I want you to run this condition where you set property. So we go set property of the digit 0, basically that placeholder digit. All right. We want to hide it. So you hide it. Okay. And not just that, you also change the color. All right. Now, the way I've set this up, so if I quickly show you what's happening here, this symbol is actually a black color, if you see over here, and I've set the opacity 24. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to set the opacity back to 100. Set it to 100 and then back to 24. So I'm going to come over here, click on main, and I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this and set property of what? Of the currency symbol. All right. And here I'm going to choose opacity and I'm going to set that to 100. All right. Now, if you want, you can add a fade in, but I'm not really going to do a fade in. Maybe you could do something super subtle like 0.15, something that's super subtle. Let's see if that even looks good. All right. So let's go ahead and turn this on. This is what we get. So if I tap in 1, now you can see the symbol changes. Then we have the digit 1. Now we can add this and there we go. And now this looks great. All right. Now if I go back, this works perfectly. 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 And now we need to reset back to the default state. All right. So now when I do this, it doesn't work. The 0 doesn't reveal and this does not change color. So what we need to do here is, because this condition has an if statement, we haven't decided if it is 0, what do we do? Right? We only said if it is not 0, then hide it, then hide it. But if it is 0, what should you do? If it is 0, all right, I'm going to click on the plus over here and I'm going to say set property. All right. First of all, of digit 0. So D0, as you can see, it was hidden before. Let's say you go to hidden and we want to turn that off. So when it is not 0, we hide it. When it is 0, we unhide it. All right. And also the opacity, I'm going to just copy that opacity and just bring that to this one. And here, what I will do is I'm going to set that back to 24. So now let's see if this works. So perfect, great, looks good. This works. And now if I remove this, remove all of the items, now the last digit, it's going to set that to be 0. And because the number of digits is 0, this is going to hide it. All right, as you can see, hidden is turned off, which means it's going to be revealed. And we're going to set the opacity back to 24. And as you can see, this is what happened. Right? So now if I can add a digit, hide, add, hide, there we go, right? Perfect. Awesome. Now, time for the bonus. Now, let's say that you actually entered a number. All right. Now, let's say you're actually prototyping an interaction where you are sending money to somebody. All right. And you want the person to enter the number, right? Now, maybe there is a limit to that number. Maybe you cannot send more than a certain number. Maybe you don't have sufficient bank balance to send that much money. All right. So which means we need to throw an error. All right. Now, let's take a visual example. So let's say I type in this number. All right. Whatever. All right. Now, let's say I don't have this much. Let's say I only have, like 50,000 rupees in my bank account, or 50,000 euros in this case. I should get an error saying that, hey, you can't send this much money. Now, the thing is that this is actually not a numerical value. These are just random digits. As you can see, these are just digits. And this is also a digit. This is not an actual number because it is a string variable. So if I open this up, this is a string. This is not a number variable. So it does not hold any numerical value. Now, how do we actually calculate whatever this text that the user entered actually can be converted into a numerical value? Can we take 213321 to say 213,321 euros? There is a function that is going to allow us to do that. And what I'm going to do is every time this variable changes, I'm going to convert this piece of random text into a numerical value. And I'm going to store that in another variable. So I'm going to come over here, click on plus, and I'm going to create a number variable. And now this number variable is going to hold that value. So here I can say true number. All right. Now, right now, the value is 0 because that's why, as you can see, because this is a numerical value, the value is 0. For a string, you can't have a numerical value, which is why it's just an empty string or empty piece of text. So now what we're going to do is come here to the interactions. All right. Every time this changes, all right, we are going to go ahead and update this raw number to be a true number and converted that to a numerical value. So how do we do this? What I will do here is every time this event runs where basically a variable is updated, I'm going to go ahead and add a set variable because we want to update this true number. So we select that true number. All right. Now it's 0, but we want it to be updated to whatever is the value that the user has entered. So we're going to use a function here called as number. And as you can see here, it says converts a string to a number. So it can actually take that raw number and convert that to a actual numerical value. All right. So I'm going to tap on this, basically enter that. And here I'm going to convert the raw number to this. Now we want to test this. So how do we actually test this? We're going to be very smart over here. What I will do is I'm going to print this, and here I'm going to say true number. All right. And to test this, and here I'm going to go and now take that true number. All right. Because now that true number actually holds a numerical value. All right. I'm going to say +1. So now whatever was a raw number, which was basically a random piece of text, was converted to a actual value, updated it in this true number variable. So now this is actually a numerical value and we're updating 1. So now we can actually see both, right? We can see the string and the actual numerical value. So let's see how that is. So let me just close this. All right. And now we can run this. So now if I type in 1, you can see that we got a 0.0, but this should actually be 2 because it should be 1 plus 1. Now if I add in 2 over here, you can see that the actual number should be 12 plus 1, which we should get 13. But that is not happening. Now here I tapped in 3 and it somehow gave in 13, which it did, which was 12 plus 1. So it's actually working, but it's doing it in the wrong order. So if I add, let's say, another one over here, it actually is supposed to be 123 plus 1, which is 124. But there is some issue over here because it's not running this command in the right order. So now we need to figure out where this issue is and fix it. So now to fix this, we need to actually go ahead and restructure the order of the action that's happening. All right. So if we actually look at the order of events over here, we are actually updating this true number even before we actually updated the number over here. So essentially what's happening is the logic is actually working, but we're just printing this information at the wrong time, right? So everything is perfect. We're just printing it at the wrong time. So what I can do is after we print this set variable, then let's bring this all the way down. So we print it at the very end. So now if I go ahead and quickly check this, let me quickly resume this. So now if I type in 1, now you can see it works. So now we typed in the number 1. Now the true value is actually 2. This is going to be 13. If I type in 1 again, so 121 plus 1 is going to be 122. We do this. Now it's going to be, 1,214. You can try another one, right? So now it's obviously working, right? Now if I type again, now it doesn't really work, right? So now the condition is working. So now let's actually just go ahead and put some sort of a simple error state, and we can sort of reveal that error state when I go above a certain threshold. So as you can see here, I just went ahead and created a super quick error message. And so I've added it at the top. This is probably not the best way to lay this out, but we're just playing around with the opacity over here. So I'm going to go ahead and sort of just set the opacity of this to 0. So let's say we set the opacity of this to 0. That's how it basically starts. And then let's say we add a number, let's say more than 1,50,000 euros, there should be an error, right? So we can just quickly test that theory. So the logic can be anything actually. Here, just to test it, we can put this, right? Now, what we're going to do is after it does the conversion, all right, we want to add a condition, right? So actually, after it updates the number, basically sets the variable, not the condition. This is the variable. We want to add the condition. Now the print, it doesn't matter where we put it right now. I don't think it matters that much. But here we're going to say if, all right, the true number, all right, and now this is actually a numerical value, is greater than, we can do 1,50,000, all right, or 150,000, then we basically set the opacity of that error message to be 100%, all right? And because this condition is going to run every single time the variable changes. So the moment the value becomes equal to or less than 1,50,000 or 150,000 euros, we want to reverse this. So I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this, paste this over here, and set this opacity back to 0. I'm probably going to do a super small animation, something very simple like duration 0.1 seconds. This is going to be 0%, animate 0.1 millisecond, something super subtle, right? So now let's check this out. So now let's say I type in 2, 1, 3, 2. Now this one is going to go above 1,50,000. Oh, actually, no, we need one more digit. So now, as you can see, it says sufficient balance unavailable. But if I remove it, then it works, right? So let's try 1,50,000 or $150,000. Oh, 150,000, we haven't really prototyped it for all the other digits, but that's okay. We can just do this, all right? Yep, as you can see, this works. This is perfect, all right? So let me close this again. Let's do 3, 3, 2, 1. And now it should show the error, right? So now essentially we basically have taken this string, converted that to a number, and now we are running logic on that. Not only did we animate individual digits with strings, we also went ahead and converted it to a numerical value so that we can store that number and do anything with it. So hopefully that makes sense. So if you want to learn more about Play, make sure to check out my playlist, my other tutorials on Play. I'll leave links down below in the description that you can check out. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, let me know in the comment sections down below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more amazing, awesome content. I'll see you guys in my next video. So then take care and bye-bye.